everyone, Kristina Werner here. Welcome to another card video for the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be using this die set and stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and this is the Big U stamp set. I'm going to be doing a technique today that I'm going to call double masking with watercolors. So the first mask I'm creating is with actual masking paper. This is the Simon Says Stamp masking paper, so it's really economical when you buy it. And I'm just cutting out the large U out of that die set. And I'm going to be adhering the outside area of the mask, so the negative area of the mask, over some watercolor paper. This is Strathmore watercolor paper. I'm just placing that over the top. And I'm going to be adding some liquid masking fluid over the top. So I'm using this particular paper mask as a stencil to create a liquid mask. So I'm using some drying gum. I'm going to give that a good shake so that it's nice and mixed up when I apply it. And I'm going to be using an old paintbrush for this. You want to make sure you use an old brush that you're not going to mind if it gets a little gummed up and sticky and kind of gross, because masking fluid will do that to any type of brush you use, and it's really hard to clean. So just to be a little bit easier on yourself, go ahead and use an old brush that you don't mind ruining. So this is a brush that the bristles got all messed up, so I don't mind ruining it. I'm just lightly brushing on a bunch of that drying masking fluid, and then I can gently peel off the paper mask. And this reveals a nice sharp edge around the letter U. You could try like painting on something that had that sharp of a line, but I don't think you'd really get it that sharp. So this is kind of a fun technique. And it's a great way to use your dyes with your watercolors. So I'm taking the positive area of that die, and now I'm going to be masking around it with the liquid masking fluid. I'm going to just do some quick strokes all the way across and make a nice area around the letter U. I did want to mention that if any of you are having trouble removing your masking fluid, whether it's this drying gum or maybe some Winsor & Newton masking fluid or even the Molotow masking pen, sometimes it has trouble being removed depending on the type of paper and how thick the masking fluid is. So before you go out buying new paper, try making sure that your masking fluid is very, very thin. If you use a very thin layer of masking fluid, chances are it will pick up from the watercolor paper without any problem. So I'm going to remove this paper mask right away, and I want to make sure that I remove that rather quickly, because I don't want any of that moisture from the liquid masking to seep into the masking paper and then causing a problem when I go to remove it. That's one of the reasons why you don't want to watercolor over the top of the paper mask, because you're going to have that water and moisture on top of the paper mask for an extended period of time. And so it breaks down that paper and then the watercolor seeps underneath. So you really do have to use a liquid mask in order to do something like this. So I wet down that entire area of my watercolor paper. Now I'm dropping on some watercolors. This is the Pocket Filled Sketch Box. This is by Koi, Sakura Koi, and these watercolors are a great introductory set. So if you are unfamiliar with watercoloring, or if you just want to pick up a nice set that's fantastic that will eliminate some of the frustrations for you as you learn to watercolor, this is a fantastic set. I've wet the area again on this one, and I'm dropping in a more concentrated color, and you'll notice that it's quite a bit darker than the color on the other one, and I just wanted to see if I could get it a little bit more bright and vibrant. There are two ways that I like to use my watercolors, and I love both ways. One is a little bit more on the softer side, which is like the first one that I painted, and then this one, which has a little bit more bold colors. So I'm adding in lots of really highly pigmented color. I'm swirling that around, getting those colors to mix. And then I realized that it was a little too harsh over on that one right side, so I brought in my paper towel just to sop up some of that color. This is a very forgiving technique, just getting a nice wash of color across the watercolor paper, so it's really, really fun. I let those air dry, and then I'm bringing in some water droplets using my paintbrush. The paintbrush I'm using today, by the way, is a round size 8 brush. It's a silver black velvet, and it's a really, really great all-around general watercolor brush. I let those air dry, and I just got some subtle water droplets on there. Then I removed the tape around the watercolor pieces, and it was time to remove the liquid masking. Now this is the really, really fun part, because you can see the sharp edge of that liquid mask. I'm using a Xyron adhesive remover or adhesive eraser to pick up that masking fluid. You can rub the masking fluid with your fingertips and it will start to ball up the masking fluid, but it is a little bit frustrating and it takes a long time. So I always recommend using a pickup remover or adhesive pickup remover or an adhesive eraser to do that. You can see how fast that comes off. It's super easy. So to finish the area, the greeting area of this card, I took some VersaFine Onyx Black and that stamp set that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and I stamped Thinking Of right over the top of the U area. This is going to create a nice greeting, and it's going to be a rather simple card. You could recreate either of these cards over and over again without too much time spent, and you could change the sentiment or the greeting on each one of them. So I'm stamping the "You Always Know What to Say" over on the other one. And just to bring in more interest and more black into the card designs, I'm adding some dash lines. On this one, I added one with the aid of a ruler. I just used a T-square ruler and drew on that dash line. And then I also did a scribbled kind of heart over the line. On the other card, I did a border about 1/4 inch from each edge, and I had them intersect in the corners. So I'm going to create the card bases now. The cardstock I'm using is Fog cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm scoring that at 5.5 to create a top folding card. I then took some foam adhesive and applied that to the back of each watercolor piece, and then pressed it onto the card bases. To finish off these cards, I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle using some crystal sequins from Darice. This is my absolute favorite color of sequins because it sort of picks up the colors underneath. So you could put this on top of almost any color of watercolor, but I particularly love it over the top of yellows and pinks because it really brings out that yellow and pink color in the sequins. So those are the cards for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I love this technique. It's kind of my first time trying it out, and I can imagine myself using this technique over and over to get the most mileage out of all of my dies. Thanks for watching.